statistically, Clemson's the best first half team in the country, and it's not particularly close. What do you attribute to that?
Well, we talk to our guys. It's important to start fast, and I got to give credit to the other coaches on the staff, full-time coaches and graduate assistants, and putting together a good plan to start fast. And we start each week with a certain amount of plays that we want to script, that we feel like are good against any situation that the defense tries to bring, and get us off to a fast start, and the guys feed off of it. And when they have that success early, I mean, it just opens up the floodgates for those guys. So, but it all goes back to how they prepare. You know, they prepare and they take pride in starting fast and understanding that, hey, it's a team game. If we can start fast and get teams behind with our defense, then it's going to be a long night.
Deshaun struggled on his opening drives a little bit early in the year. Anything has changed through the last few weeks?
You know, I think when early in the season, it's just those first game jitters and everybody getting comfortable. But you know, he's always prepared the same way. I haven't seen anything change in him. It's just overall, over time, we've gotten more consistent in our execution. So that's what I think it is attributed to.
Kelly Bryant listed ahead of Nick Schuster on the depth chart today. Do you feel confident now that if you need a backup quarterback to play?
They're co.
They're co.
The only reason he's ahead of him because we do it alphabetical.
Okay. But either way, if Kelly Bryant needs to play, do you feel confident now that he's a guy who can step in there and play?
Well, I think if you watch what he's done when he's gotten in the game, he's earned the opportunity to get more reps, to really open up the competition. And I think to answer that question, by the time we get to the game Saturday, we'll know who the next guy is to run out. But I think he's really opened up that competition, and he's going to get more reps in practice. And so by the end of the week, we'll know who that guy will be. But I think, he's earned the right, to get out there and compete. And obviously, if you look at the two, Nick did a really good job, I think, with Georgia Tech, and led the team down the field. And obviously, we were a little disappointed in those couple of throws. He's got to be ready to go in there and execute those throws. But, the competition is open, but Kelly Bryant has shown the flashes of what he can do with the ball in his hands.
So who the second-team quarterback is will be decided in practice this week?
Yes.
Have you been disappointed just with Nick's lack of progress from the spring when he was getting first-team reps for 15 practices?
Not disappointed in lack of progress. More disappointed in, he's got to be ready because you're one play away from him having to go out there to finish out the game. Obviously, that game was a different situation where it was out of hand and we put him in there, but he's got to be ready to go. And that's probably the only things I've been disappointed is he wasn't ready to go right out the gate. But if you watch in the other situations he's been in the game, he's done well.
Tony, the young receivers that you have, obviously when Mike goes down, there's an opportunity. And the four guys that you used have all at different times made plays and shown that ability. Is that kind of rare to see so many of them be able to achieve at a high rate when they're so young?
I think it goes back to recruiting, and we understand the culture that we have here at Clemson, and it's a certain kind of young man that's going to be successful in our program, and it goes back to who they are off the field and what they're all about, what their character is. So I think that's just a testament to the character of the young men that they prepare with purpose and they're ready for their opportunity and they're not afraid of the big stage. And I think with the way that high school football is nowadays and the amount of attention you get in recruiting and the big games that you play in at the high school level has prepared these guys to be ready to come in and transition.
Yeah, obviously nobody wanted Mike to get hurt, but with that happening, would some of these guys not have gotten as many reps if Mike were in the mix game after game after game?
I'd say that's probably a fair assessment. And then really just the type of games that we've played in. There's been some opportunities where we've been able to get some guys in there more than we have in the past. So I think it's just a combination of him being out, but then also we've had some situations where we've gotten ahead and had an opportunity to play those guys.
When you're calling plays, do you feel like because of the weapons you have and the way that some of these guys have grown up that we're talking about, that you feel like now you have an answer for whatever a defense throws out at you?
I wouldn't say I have all the answers, but it is refreshing to know that you don't have to change up, your thought process depending upon who's in the game. And that's just a challenge we give those guys every week, that you got to be prepared because the system has answers built in, but it comes down to execution. And the way that the guys are executing makes it easier on all of us. And I'm not the only one that's calling the plays. There's Coach Scott, Coach Sweeney, Coach Streeter. All those guys are giving me suggestions throughout the course of the game. But it is good to be able to just kind of stay in a rhythm and not worry about who your personnel is.
It's probably hard to quantify now or maybe even down the road, but when you guys go into a place like Miami where there's so much talent, how much does it help when you guys make a statement like you did in terms of just the brand down there? letting people know who you are?
No, I think, even prior to the game, the Clemson brand is very, very strong in the state of Florida. I have the great fortune of being able to recruit down there. I've recruited down in Fort Myers and then now in Tampa. And when you walk into a school, because of the success that Sammy Watkins has had and the success that J. Ron and Mackenzie are having, I think that brand is already strong down in South Florida. But to have a game like that, it gets everybody's attention. And there were a lot of guys that were reaching out after the game, just impressed with how our guys played.
Tony, obviously one of the questions coming into the season was how well you and Jeff were going to perform in your new roles after what Chad was able to do here for so long. What kind of obviously you've answered some of that already. What kind of routine do you and Jeff have? Do you guys get together early on in the week, set things up and say, okay, this week you're doing this and I'm doing this, and we'll let it unfold from there?
Yeah, we have a plan in place, and we've stayed consistent with the plan, regardless of the outcome of the game. And I'll focus a lot on the run game. Jeff will focus a lot on the passing game, and then Coach Streeter's been a tremendous help because he's been a coordinator for a long time, so he can kind of be our checks and balances. But we have a good working relationship, and we do a lot of things together, and not just myself and Jeff, but we include the entire staff because again, the more eyes that you have with that understand what we're trying to get accomplished, that understand the plan, we're able to get to those answers whenever a defense poses something that we may not have seen on tape. Coach
Sweeney's obviously the ultimate voice. I'm sure last year Chad was a voice on the headset who said when he said something, that was it. Have there been any, have there been any times there have been too many voices in the headset with you and Jeff and Brandon and things like that?
No, the three main voices are myself, Jeff, and Coach Sweeney.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of suggestions, and there's been times that some of the calls that I end up going with were based off of what Coach Sweeney recommended or what Coach Scott recommended. So it's been a good working relationship, and there haven't been any issues. Not to say that that's not gonna come up, but there haven't been any issues thus far.
Was it the nature of the games earlier, or was the overall plan coming into the season gradually reintroducing Deshaun's run factor to the offense? Because it seems like over the last several weeks it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more effective.
Well, I think the first couple of games, obviously wanted to get him back confident, in that knee, probably not run him as much. But then as we got into ACC play, we knew that he was going to have to give us that extra hat that the defense was trying to take away from us with his legs. So there was a little bit of reintroducing it, but now there's design, but a lot of it is based off of the system. It may not be an exact quarterback called run, but it becomes a quarterback run because he manages the system so well, and he's able to see things, feel things, read the keys that we give him to read to be able to pull the ball and make us right.
The long run, that was a read, wasn't it?
That was a read. It was a read. And his touchdown run, his first touchdown run was a read as well.
Tyson died. It seems like there's a little bit more giddy up in him. Have you seen that coming from? I mean, like 2 weeks ago, I don't know that you necessarily seen it. Have you seen that coming in it though? That he had a little bit more burst to him. It looked like on Saturday.
He's a guy that needs reps. And because he hadn't played as much football as the rest of the guys have, and I've noticed that in practice. He's practicing better. He's earned the opportunity to get in there a little bit earlier. Still has a lot of things to learn, but he was excited about his opportunity to play. He looked fast running the ball, but now what he has to do is learn how to consistently do that in practice, and he can't just be a gamer. And he's learning that because there's so much competition in the room that you're going to go with the guys that practice the best. Not that he hasn't worked his tail off. He just got to learn how to be a consistent practice player.
People once would say that Clemson was a one-half kind of team that only played one half of the game. What do you credit to that change to make it a full game kind of team?
We're just playing to our standard, and we challenge the backups that if you get an opportunity to play late in the game, the standard doesn't change, and understanding that we got to play 60 minutes, that we got to be prepared to go out and finish games. So I think it's just the culture, the mindset of the young people, the culture that Coach Sweeney has established, that we play 60 minutes or however long it takes. And the guys are having a lot of fun. They're enjoying the opportunity to play. They like to play, and so I think it's just the overall culture of the program.
You kind of alluded to it earlier, but do you guys address with the team the issues or I guess history y'all have had going to Raleigh the last couple of times? what's happening?
Oh, they'll be made fully aware of and I know Coach Sweeney will do a great job, which he always does a great job. And I know offensively, I was here when we went up there, and I think we were undefeated going into that game. But they're a very good football team.
Yeah.
They're playing with a lot of confidence, and so they'll be reminded of that. But when they cut on the tape, it's like watching Boston College. I know from an offensive perspective, looking at the defense, their attention is going to be gathered very quickly when they cut on the tape.
What do you specifically remember about that loss?
Oh man, we couldn't get out of our own way, and we gave them the momentum very early in the game, and we could never recover. That's what I remember the most about it.